Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. I'm back. I'm sorry I was not able to pump out a video yesterday morning. I was sick, had the stomach bug, the same thing that my girls had, my wife, my two little girls had over the weekend. I thought that I was going to get out of it with not getting sick, but whatever it is very contagious, and eventually it did get me. Luckily, it only lasted about 12 to 18 hours, but certainly when it was hitting, if you will, it was pretty brutal. So somehow I'm waking up this morning feeling 100%, feeling great, honestly, refreshed, got a really good night of sleep. So I'm back, and there is a lot to talk about, a lot to go over. So we're going to go over 3 different winter storms in this video. The first one's right at our doorstep. It's going to crank up today into tonight. We're going to speak on this. This will have more of an ice element than a snow, but it will bring some accumulating snow also. We're going to get very detailed on this storm. We'll zoom into graphics from the National Weather Service, get you guys a really good idea that the people that are in the impact zone of what you can expect as far as ice and snow. And then we'll talk about the next storm system that could impact the same areas as we get into this weekend. This is going to bring more ice, more snow. And then there's another system for next week that's been showing up on models for the last several days. And I think that this has higher end potential, but there is still some bouncing back and forth as normally there is with this storm system. Is it going to be more suppressed, more amped up? What is it going to be? So we're going to have this video sectioned out in 3 different ways, timestamp wise. We'll talk about each individual system. But chances are, if you're being impacted by this storm system over the next 24 to 36 hours, you want to stay tuned to those other tabs too, because you're going to get impacted by these other storms also. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on the long range. What are we seeing as things change? We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about today's weather. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. I will have you guys a devotion tomorrow morning. I wanted to do one this morning, but it's been a hectic week with the sickness, and just didn't have the stuff together this morning, so we'll get right back to that for tomorrow morning's video. So let's get rocking and rolling. So let's start this off by showing you guys the latest watches, warnings. As you can tell, there's no winter storm warnings with this. So I think for some folks, this will be a high impact storm system. But as far as I would say a widespread major winter storm, I would say no. Now, if you live in these purple areas, these are winter weather advisories, and I'll try to zoom in to some of these areas. I mean, we even have winter weather advisories as far west as like northwestern Oklahoma. I don't think this is going to be a big deal. This is just for some freezing drizzle. I was actually surprised to see this, but they do expand into the Midwest areas of Iowa and northern Missouri, all the way up to Chicago, all the way down to almost Effingham, Illinois. Indianapolis, you guys, it looks like just have special weather statements. So not expecting much ice from this for you guys. They do expand all the way into the southern counties of lower Michigan, northern Indiana. We got winter weather advisories for most of the state of Ohio except the far southern counties. And then this is when you get what we call cold air damming. So this will help to really entrench that cold air a little bit better, so the icing totals could be higher. So we actually have ice storm warnings in this purple color, which it takes some pretty high confidence and some high impact ice to get ice storm warnings up. So this area could mix with sleet too, maybe even a little bit of snow. But I mean, folks, we got winter weather advisories all the way down to almost Richmond, not quite, but up for DC, Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York City, over to Boston. Once you get into this region, maybe a little bit more snow involved, and we'll speak on that. But winter weather advisories do expand all the way up into central New York State. Nothing right now for Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, but that could change, after I drop this video. So this is what we are looking at right now. The radar, you barely can even see the beginning stages of this storm right now. I'm gonna have to see if we can get the controls and get this thing from glitching out on us. Here we go. I'm not sure what's hitting the ground from this moisture. Let me know if you're seeing some snow in like southern PA. I looked at the radar on radar scope, and it did look like it had some pretty decent return. So if you're seeing some snow in like northern Maryland, southern PA, areas of New Jersey this morning, heck, even New York City, Long Island, let me know. This is just some pre-event stuff. This isn't really the main system. The main system is going to get cranked up in this region. You can see a little bit of moisture already right now, later on over the next several hours, but you can't see the system very well on the radar, but this is what's going on right at this second. Now, let's break it down west to east. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. We're going to spend more time on what the forecast ice and snow totals are. So this is the first storm system starting today into tomorrow. So this is starting around 6 a.m. Central Time. I know it says 7, but that's in Eastern Time. So we'll look at Tropical Tidbits here, which shows a really good geographical view. And here it comes as we're starting to get into this afternoon. We got some snow breaking out across areas of Minnesota. Freezing rain is in that pink. Really light freezing rain. I don't think this will be heavy, but sometimes that light freezing rain does add up more. I would say it adds up more efficiently than the heavier freezing rain. But you keep going here, and as you can tell, yes, that is just good old-fashioned rain down here in the southern sections of the Midwest. I mean, southern Indiana, Ohio. In fact, there could be a convective element to it, maybe a rumble of thunder. But this is snow up here in northern Minnesota. We got kind of an ice-snow mix here in areas of southern Wisconsin. We're going to get a period of light freezing rain in Chicago this evening. Should stay mainly rain with some pockets of freezing rain. You know, if you're sitting around 31, 32 degrees, this could be freezing on elevated surfaces, say in like Indianapolis. But you keep this going, and we just get a period of light, maybe at times moderate freezing rain. Could be heavy at times. You see these kind of pockets of darker pink. That could be some heavier kind of pockets of freezing rain. Now, snow is falling up here in the UP of Michigan, northeastern sections of Minnesota. In fact, you guys could get several inches of snow from this, and we continue to move this forward. We'll get some snow that moves in after midnight across the UP of Michigan. We just got freezing rain moving across Detroit tonight, Cleveland, and then this continues to bring an icy mix into southern Ontario later tomorrow morning. And we continue just to have some snow, kind of greeting you guys for tomorrow morning across the UP. And then this heads on out. We're pretty much done. We could get some lake effect snow off Superior tomorrow p.m. sometime. And then that's it with that system. And then we look at the Northeast. All right, this is starting off around 7, 8 p.m. tonight. Okay, here it comes. Moisture starts to blossom. And this is what I mean with a convective element. You see these pockets of yellows, orange, and reds down here. This could actually be some thunderstorms. Could get a rumble of thunder in southern sections of Ohio, West Virginia. But you see this kind of weird pocket right here. It's kind of doing like this. That's that cold air damming setting up. So cold air is getting trapped kind of east of some of these higher mountain ranges and hills and PA down into Maryland, down to West Virginia. But you continue to move this forward here. This is freezing rain in northern areas of Ohio, and you keep this going. And we could start off as a period of snow in central New Jersey. And I mean, look at this. This is heavy mixed winter weather, meaning the purple, I mean, that's sleet. This could be very heavy sleet, guys. And with that low pressure kind of moving where it is, you're going to get warm nosed, which means this is going to stay mainly rain for a good chunk of West Virginia, western PA. That low pressure right there is going to bring a lot of warm air aloft and at the surface. And this continues. And listen, if you do start off as snow, it could be quite heavy. I'm telling you, it can be quite heavy, like 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning across areas of central PA, eastern PA, New Jersey, heck, even New York City. This could be some very heavy snow, very heavy sleet. This could add up quick. It could, what I'm trying to say is it could produce some surprise totals. Let me slow down a little bit. So this is around 5 a.m. It could be sleeting like crazy north of D.C. through central Maryland into like southern sections of PA, and you keep this going. And listen, the HRRR model is running colder than some of the other model guides. So, for example, you're waking up tomorrow morning to a pretty solid burst of snow in New York City, Long Island. I mean, heck, even down into southern, I would say central sections of New Jersey, it's snowing pretty good in Philadelphia. And then this kind of blast of snow moves across New York State, all across southern New England. This stays mainly snow for most of the event in like Boston. And then this continues and kind of cranks up and brings just some light to moderate winter weather across Vermont, New Hampshire. But as you can tell, it starts off as snow and then it goes to that kind of icy mix of sleet and freezing rain. You could start off as snow but end at the very end of the storm tomorrow afternoon in Boston as maybe a wintry mix. And then it's pretty much done. So what about totals? Now, I'm not going to zoom in too much for this area because the ice totals do not look super concerning, but a few 100ths of an inch of ice is possible. As you can tell, 0.03, 0.08, very light ice totals across the Midwest. So we will watch out for that. The snow will be a bigger deal in some of these areas. Several inches of snow up here in northern Minnesota. I would say anywhere from 2 to as much as 5 inches of snow in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, just a few inches of wet snow. Could get more snow definitely up here in kind of like the peninsula that extends out into Lake Superior. Always forget the name of that. I feel like I know it, but I don't want to try it and butcher it. But anyways, a lot of these areas, if I don't mention it enough, I'll just forget it. But several inches of snow, a little bit of lake enhancement up here in northeast Minnesota, and maybe a little bit, some trace and maybe a dusting amount, even kind of south of this heaviest band of snow. But freezing rain, certainly going to be an issue in northern sections of Indiana. Could get as much as 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. But Ohio, we're about to zoom into you guys here. So closer look at Ohio, because once we do start to get into the state, points east, it gets a little bit more serious, I would say. So this is ice totals predicted by the National Weather Service for Ohio. So I always like to say that once you get over 1/10 of an inch of ice, then you can really start to see kind of a glaze on the trees, kind of a glistening, if you will. And depending on the temperatures, they could be an issue on the roads. Now you got to have really, really cold temperatures, like deep into the 20s for 1/10 of an inch of ice to really, provide a huge impact on the roads. But, anywhere from 1 to 2/10 of an inch of ice is possible throughout Ohio, less amounts as you get further south. Now, as far as snow, I don't expect much snow. I mean, maybe an inch or less in these areas right up here in northern sections of Ohio, but not expecting much snow from this. Now, West Virginia, good chunk. I mean, Charleston, Parkersburg. I mean, the western sections of West Virginia, not going to get much. You really got to get into these areas where cold air gets trapped in the higher elevations, like in the Allegheny Mountains. So snowshoe could get over 1/4 inch of ice. In this red area, this is going to be concerning. You're just going to get an all-out ice storm up in these regions. Straight freezing rain. You're going to get some sleet too. Dang, losing my voice. And even some snow. In fact, you look at snowfall totals from this, and maybe a little bit of snow, but not expecting much. But I could see a little bit more snow, a little bit more sleet mixing with this than what this is forecasting. We'll see what happens. But, man, check this out. This is ice totals predicted from this area in northern VA, areas of Maryland, and then areas of eastern West Virginia. Washington, D.C., maybe as high as like 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. You get west of D.C., you can go anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 inch of ice. Once you get over 1/4 inch, then you start to get the weighing of the trees, could start to get the snapping of the branches, losing power. You get up to that 1/2 inch of freezing rain mark, that's issues. You definitely are starting to run into bigger time issues and widespread power outages. A little bit of freezing rain possible even into central Virginia, but once you get into these areas right here like Winchester, Cumberland, Oakland, even Hagerstown, 1/4 inch or higher of freezing rain. And listen, there's going to be sleet mixing with this too. Could have some very heavy sleet. I mean, I could see somebody getting an inch of sleet, and you say, well, Mitch, an inch ain't that much of sleet. That's a pretty big deal. That's a lot. As far as snow, man, this graphic is not that great here. As far as snow totals, they're not showing much. Here it is. Snow totals. You certainly could get an inch or less, but I would add sleet into this too. Some areas could get an inch of sleet. I think freezing rain will be the biggest deal, but I'm telling you, don't be surprised you get an inch, maybe an inch and a half of sleet, maybe a little bit of snow into this also. So, as far as New Jersey, areas of eastern PA, a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice is possible. Once you get deeper into PA, you could get over 1/10 of an inch of ice, but I mean, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice in Philadelphia, not much along the Jersey Shore, Dover, maybe a very light glaze. It is winter weather advisory criteria type stuff, but not a big deal. Now, I could see more snow, maybe sleet getting involved in this area. So Philadelphia could get a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice mixed with almost an inch of snow. That certainly provides issues. Once you get into northern sections of New Jersey, maybe an inch and a half. So certainly some snow will mix with this. I mean, heck, even going for almost a half an inch of snow in like Dover. So I think the front end thumping of this, I'm telling you, I mentioned it on the HRRR model when I was breaking down the evolution of the storm, could surprise people. Very heavy snow. This will have a lot of warm air advection, a lot of a saturated atmosphere. Will be squeezing out all them snowflakes. PA is going to be a high, I would say Pennsylvania is definitely a state where you're going to get some of the higher end impacts. So, if you live in that red area, over a quarter inch of ice is possible. It's a likely. So that's getting down here in like the Allegheny Mountains. I mean, some of these towns are going to get hit pretty good with ice. You got an ice storm warning for a reason. Somerset, hopefully I said that right. 3/10 to 4/10 of an inch of ice. Johnstown, same thing. Even Harrisburg, 1/10 of an inch of ice. Gettysburg, 1/10 to 2/10. State College, 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. The entire state of PA just about will get ice. I mean, the only area that might get saved from it is Pittsburgh because of the low, I would say the placement of the low pressure. But very, very icy setup for the state of PA. Now, if you do look at snowfall, some areas could get sleet. I'm telling you, in this area right here, PA, right here, could get a surprise, maybe a 1 to 3 inches of snow and sleet. This area could get a big time front end thumping of snow and sleet as I broke down when I was breaking down the evolution of the storm. Don't let it surprise you guys. If you live in this circled area, you could get more than an inch or less with what they're showing. This could be some very heavy snow, sleet for a period tomorrow morning before you really begin to mix big time. All right, so we start to head up into New York City. Few 1/100ths of an inch of ice possible. Not a huge deal with icing, but certainly a light glaze is possible. But you talk about snow with this. And let's see. Don't like this map, but we'll show it anyways. New York City going for around an inch, maybe 2 inches. Points north, you get up to New Haven, 2 inches. Hartford, 2 inches. And kind of about the same thing in Long Island. Basically, this entire area could get 1 to 2 inches of snow. And this area could get that front end thumping also. All right, so you get up to the rest of New York State, few 100s, I would say a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice, not a huge deal at all. As far as snowfall, you guys could definitely get more snow rather than ice. So you get north of Syracuse, up to Watertown, a few to maybe even several inches of snow possible if you live in this yellow area. This is between now and 7 p.m. Friday. Maybe 3 to 6 inches of snow is possible. And Albany, 2 inches of snow. We'll see what happens. But definitely more snowy up here. But even that, not a big event. And then just a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice across southern New England. But this area could definitely get more so snow. So Boston going for 3 inches of snow now. So a few inches of snow's generally the theme across Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, heck, even out in Cape Cod. Anywhere from 2 to as much as 4 inches of snow across this entire area. So this will be that heavy wet snow too. Definitely not dry, that's for sure. But we head on up here to the rest of Vermont and even showing more of New York. And, if you live in Vermont, a good 2 to as much as 5 inches of snow. The valley regions less, higher elevated regions, 1,000 feet makes a difference. You're going to get more snow. And then to wrap this up, we'll look at New Hampshire and Maine and the general theme. It looks like everybody's going for 3 inches except Portland, 4. So anywhere from 2 to as much as 5 inches of snow is what I would say for Maine and New Hampshire. So not expecting much ice up here. So we got very detailed on that. What about the next storm system? So there's another one coming behind this. We're going to start this off Friday midday. So, next 48 hours. Another storm system right on its heels. Here it comes, moving across the Rockies. So bring snow across the northern plains. This is getting into the middle of the night, Friday night to Saturday morning. Snow's breaking out across the Dakotas. We get this heavy round of snow that begins to move into central Minnesota, begins to spread into the upper Midwest. Wisconsin, this is some heavy snow. Chicago, this looks more like a mixed bag, more so freezing rain, maybe just rain. I don't know why Chicago cannot get a winter storm to save their life. Winter weather fans certainly are punching air in the city of Chicago. I don't know what's up. It's like the city just cannot. You would think, when you think Chicago, you would think, man, they get winter weather all the time. The last couple winters, I mean, not really. But anyways, we'll keep this rolling. Low pressure could support all winter weather in Chicago, but it might just, you're too close to that low pressure. This would bring a lot of warm air aloft. So it might just be an icy mix, but we'll continue to fine tune this. This is under 100 hours, but you see that heavy banding of snow up here in Wisconsin. This could be definitely a heavy snowfall for you folks. And then this continues to progress eastward where we will go on and move to, and here we are starting off Saturday afternoon, February the 8th. This is an all-out snowstorm for the Great Lakes region, except when you get, like I said, to Chicago, down to the Indiana, Ohio, lower Michigan border. This is a corridor of ice setting up. Low pressure right in here. This is a very long system, so we already got ice breaking out across the mid-Atlantic. Same areas are going to get ice over the next 36 hours. And here goes that low pressure tracking over the same areas that the one today and to tomorrow will be tracking. It's kind of like deja vu. But this is some heavier snow. I think you'll get into more heavier snow up here in Michigan, Wisconsin, southern Ontario. And this continues, and this storm just looks more juiced up in my opinion, especially further north. So this continues to move into the northeast. This is another nasty freezing rain event. This is a big thumping of snow moving in Saturday night into Sunday. Low pressure not in a favorable place for all winter weather across the northeast, but certainly starting off as that. Are you going to get some sort of transfer of the low from here to here? Heavy snow in southern Ontario. You guys are getting hit hard with this. Even Buffalo, this could be a high impact winter storm for you guys. Look at the interior sections of the northeast getting hit hard. Still snowing back here in areas of Michigan, even in the middle of the night, Saturday into Sunday. We're actually just going to go on and, let's see. We're going to go on and flip this to the northeast here. And we're actually in range of the 06Z, so we actually can get some new model data here. And here it comes. And this would be a heavy thumping of snow moving into even Boston. This would be a kind of icy mix in New York City going to rain. It looks like it starts off looking more wintry, and then it actually gets warmer compared to the system we're about to deal with. But this is heavy snow. Like right in here, that is heavy snow, guys. That is a heavy front end thumping of snow. Low pressure right here is bringing a lot of warm air aloft. So while the temperatures are cooperating in the upper levels of the atmosphere, this could stay heavy, wet snow. And then we'll have to see if we'll get some sort of transfer of the low. So could get this nasty corridor of ice getting into Sunday morning. But do you stay all winter weather in Boston? The latest Euro says you switch to rain eventually. But this could be a high impact event. I mean, especially as this low pressure is deepening to sub 990. So we might need to cover Canada in this too. And I know I haven't showed you guys a lot of love lately. But this could be a big event for you guys as you're getting into the tail end of the weekend. And then this heads on out. So as far as the signal, as far as snow, this is in 24-hour periods off the Euro. Okay, so you're going to see colors appear on your screen, then disappear. So this is starting off Friday night. We're getting into Saturday. There is that signal for snow across the Dakotas, getting into Minnesota, into Wisconsin. I mean, you got that 3 to 5 inch snowfall mean average. In fact, let's just get a little bit closer for you guys. Upper Midwest. Switch it to this. That's the first system. Here comes the second system. That's a pretty hefty snowfall signal for you guys as you get into your Super Bowl weekend, as some people call it. But I mean, you got the 3 to 5 inch snowfall average. And this is just 24-hour periods, scooting across Wisconsin. Unfortunately, if you're a winter weather fan, Chicago, even Detroit, Cleveland, the axis of snow is certainly to your north. But this moves through. And then we start to move into the northeast. And here it comes. That's a pretty hefty snowfall signal off the Euro ensemble. And this is just getting into Sunday morning. And then look, this is the 24-hour period for this storm system. And I mean, in that purple area, guys, that's over a half a foot snowfall average just north of Boston. Boston almost has a 6 inch snowfall average. And I mean, it's pretty hefty even into southern New England, across New York. I mean, just the entire New England area. This is a pretty heavy signal for a high impact snow event. And then this moves in and moves out, and we'll have to watch the next one behind it. Now, as far as ice, In fact, I just want to keep it at this, and I want to back it up a little bit. Let's see. Let's look in this area first. So this is the chances of a 1/10 of an inch of ice, which, once you start to get into that, you know that you're getting impactful ice, freezing rain. So as we're starting to get into the weekend, this is the chance off the Euro Ensemble to see a 1/10 of an inch of ice. And as you can tell, you got around 20 to 25% chance in Chicago. Once you get into Detroit, it gets much higher, over a 50% chance in this purple area, 60% chance in some areas. So the chances for, I would say, winter weather advisory criteria ice are certainly there. You're going to get nasty ice from this, the potential for it, I would say. So you move into the Northeast. Unfortunately for the weekend event, you are going to have an ice element to this too. So as we're getting into Saturday, we're getting into Sunday, and once again, PA is probably going to Pennsylvania, and surrounding states are going to be the epicenter for ice for this system this weekend. I mean, this is the second system. So Euro Ensemble says, hey, heck, if you live in this area in like reddish pink into this orange color, I mean, you might as well book it for a 1/10 of an inch of ice. And the ice signal gets into southern New England too, but it's more of a snow signal for southern New England. So we got another icy signal with this second system, unfortunately. And then there's a system behind this. This is when it just gets fuzzy. It gets weird. And we're just going to compare some model guidance. This is the Euro. So at this point, we're all the way into Sunday evening. Our second winter storm's heading on out. All right, we're getting into the morning of the 10th. You get this massive overrunning look right into here. So we're starting to get a lot of moisture coming up right here. There's some sort of boundary of cold air right into here, and this moisture is trying to tap into that cold air. So as we're moving forward here, we'll stop it right there. And you got snow breaking out over the plains. You got a little bit of snow breaking out across the Midwest. And you got heavier winter weather breaking out across areas of the Mid-Atlantic. Now, this is just a consistent feed of moisture. So if we keep going into Tuesday, look at this winter weather event. And I know it's kind of hard to see on your screen, but man, there's so much going on with this. It's a long storm, and it's really just multiple rounds of precipitation. So this is Tuesday morning. We got moisture all the way back here in Texas tapping into some of this cold air. So we got a light to moderate winter weather across the plains. We got this overrunning look across the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and just a lot going on. And then finally low pressure ejects, and we can go on and switch it to the eastern U.S. now. We'll kind of back it up a little bit. So this is Monday evening, right, of next week. Look at the heavy snow falling across Washington, D.C., areas of the Delmarva, switches to ice, and then warm air gets involved. This is just a lot of heavy rain across areas of the southeast. Heck, you might end up running a severe weather risk if this cuts too much. And then the latest Euro really wants to cut this low pressure across the apps and then bring another high impact winter weather event across the northeast areas in the mid-Atlantic. It's definitely a much warmer run. The Euro has trended warmer, and this would bring a high impact snowstorm for southern New England potentially, and then it's over. But it's not done. You continue to move. About a week from today, you got another round of winter weather, and then after that, here comes another winter storm. It's everywhere. The GFS, same thing, starting it off this Sunday evening. We got that overrunning. It's colder. The GFS is a colder run, so we got heavier snow falling across areas of like southern Ohio, southern Indiana, West Virginia, into the mid-Atlantic. That's kind of round number one. And then more moisture taps into that cold air. Not a whole lot going in the central U.S. We can actually just zoom into the eastern U.S. And, here it comes. This wants to bring a colder storm system and more suppressed. So if you remember at the beginning of the video, I said, is this system going to be more suppressed, amped up? GFS is colder, but I can tell you even the GFS is trending a little bit further north. Once upon a time, this system showed a winter storm even for North Carolina. Heck, even all the way down to South Carolina, even North Georgia. But that's why it's important to continue to tune in with updates, because it's certainly not the case anymore. But this has the potential to be a high-end winter storm. I think we're going to continue to get tweaks one way or the other. The GFS is much colder. This is getting in the next Tuesday. It wants to keep like DC, Baltimore, even Philadelphia, all winter weather. And it definitely has this kind of band of heavy snow Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then another area of winter weather moves in Wednesday afternoon. So that's what I'm saying. This one's more complex to figure out because you have multiple rounds kind of flying around with cold air nearby. This brings another winter storm, a winter weather event, 8 days from now into southern New England, into the Northeast in general. And just a lot going on. Then after that, you got more rounds and just looks like more rain for the Southeast. So the signal was there off this. For example, I'm just going to kind of show you the middle of the country. Then we'll kind of zoom into the Northeast. This is the Euro ensemble for this signal for snow. So this is the tail end of the second system. They're all very easy to get mixed up. This is the third system next week. You can see there is a signal for accumulating snow, 2.5 inch snowfall average, kind of right through the Midwest, through the Ohio Valley. And then there's also signals behind this. Like there continues just to kind of be a signal that pretty much tells me we could have multiple rounds of moisture interacting with that cold air because the signal kind of stays around. So what about the Northeast? Let's see. Gonna have to switch it to this. All right. That's that. This is the Northeast. Okay, it's a much higher snowfall signal for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So this is getting into Tuesday evening. Remember, this is in 24-hour periods. So this is the signal for the snowfall for the winter storm potential for next week. I mean, that's a pretty stout signal, right, for the Mid-Atlantic and New England, where you have a several inch snowfall average from New York City to Boston, heck, even a few inch snowfall average down to Baltimore, Philadelphia, DC, into northern VA, heck, even down into the Delmarva, and even in central PA, you have almost a 5-inch snowfall average. So this is a strong signal for a third winter storm. There it is right there going through midweek. And then it shows more signals after that too for a fourth, maybe even fifth system. So now I say all that to say this. I know my folks in the Southeast and the South are wondering, Mitch, are we going to get any winter weather anytime soon, or are we done? I don't know. I really don't. It's a tough one to figure out. I'll start this a week from today. The blue is lower pressure, trough, okay, ridging, and this is at 500 millibars, so it doesn't always tell us what's going on at the surface. Just remember that. So we have a cold air source even up under 500 millibars at the surface. We call it low-level cold. So that's what's bringing so many cold air damming events, because we do have a cold air source up here called a 50-50 low, locking in a cold high pressure for our folks in the mid-Atlantic. But this is really where a lot of our cold air is. So I'm going to draw on this trough, digging down right here, all of our energy kind of shooting through here. Cold air, dropping down into here. We got a cold air source into here. But, moving past all that, what happens as we get deeper into February? So the models have trended kind of away from a trough in the east and continues to kind of hang it out in the same area. So we get past 10 days out, and it just really wants to keep the cold air bottled up further to the north, meaning you continue to just kind of have this boundary up here where all the cold air is just kind of hanging out north of the first arrow I drew that went like this arrow right here. So you continue just to have this ridging kind of getting in the way of really any cold air to interact with such an active storm track. You got tons of moisture flying across the country over the coming weeks, but the cold air is just really wanting to stay, for the most part, pretty far north. That's why you've had, record highs yesterday. It hit 81 degrees at my house. We're going to hit the 80s again sometime this week. And you really need, especially as you get deeper into February, you really need a trough to really dig way down here. And you just aren't seeing that. You continue to have cold air feeds into the country. And you got this blocking up here that will help lock in a storm track, but you're just not getting you're not getting a lot of cold air down south. You're getting just enough cold air to the north. Now, one thing I'll say this is models may be having a hard time, and let's update this. Okay, we're the same. And I've been talking about this MJO phases, and what I'll tell you about this is, and I want you to kind of look at this really quick. Let's see. See that 5 right there. See that 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, and 7. So these are your MJO phases. So 1 through 8. All right, you see this black line, 16, 18, 20. That's actually 19, but it's just going in twos here. This is running through January. So in January, we went through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And what is it, the 5th? Which, by the way, it's my daughter's birthday. So she's 10 years old. Pretty wild stuff. I have a 10-year-old now. But right now, we're in about phase 6. Okay, because we're in the 5th. All right, you see this 12, this 14, this 16, 18. I know it's pretty small on your screen. That is February, so it's February 12th, 14, 16, 18. What I'll tell you about MJO phases is this. Phase 4, 5, and 6 are pretty warm phases. Even 7. 7 works for areas further, I would say west. But for the south, you really want to get this in the phase 8, phase 1, phase 2. And even phase 3 works in March. Well, not in March, but you get what I'm saying. Getting closer. So one thing I'm noticing is, if you look right here, we're getting into phase 8. And it's a decently strong pulse in the phase 8 too. So that's 18. So it shows us getting into a favorable phase. It looks like it's just progressing all the way to 1, 2 eventually for cold for the south and in the east. And, you look at the extended, it shows us getting all the way to phase 1. Now, it does get into like a null stage, but who knows? We'll see. But to me, it would seem like the models are struggling to understand that we're going to enter a favorable phase. And I was never a big on this MJO phases. I just thought we looked at them too much. But after seeing how spot on it was and what it actually meant with winter weather back in January across the south, it made me a bit more of a believer in it. Now, forecasting them is tough, but when you are in that right phase, typically it gives you a chance. So models just might be having a hard time, but the Climate Prediction Center continues and this is between the 12th and the 18th, continues just to pump that southeast ridge over the southeast, going for above average temperatures and keeping the cold pretty much bottled up to the north. So if you ask me, Mitch, are we going to get any more winter weather for the south? I would say we're going to have to pull for one of your classic late February, early March shenanigans to get it. Because I personally do not see it through mid-month at all for the south. Even the southeast. Once upon a time, that system next week, and it could trend colder. Normally, that's not the case. Once upon a time, last week, for next week for the southeast, there was some potential. And I will tell you, the Weather Prediction Center, is going for a little bit of ice in North Carolina. And I could see some nasty ice and all the way down to North Carolina next week. But as far as one of those true winter storms where you get snow and all that, no. So I don't know. Just remember that you can have weeks on end of above average temperatures, and all of a sudden, right at the tail end of winter, you can do some crazy stuff. So it's, to me, part of me, and this is wild coming from me because I'm a big winter weather fan. But part of me is just kind of ready for spring. I'm lucky and blessed enough to see snow. But then again, I would love to break down another winter storm for the south before we wrap up winter. And who knows, we might. We can do some weird stuff. But I can tell you this warm-up is going to get those late winter weeds firing. For some areas of the south, it's going to try to turn your grass back green. I can already notice it in my neck of the woods, how the grass is trying to wake up. So if it happens, it is probably not going to have that January vibe to it, that's for sure. We're losing daylight. I was heading home from something last night and noticing that even at like almost 7 o'clock, you can still see a glimmer of light in the sky. So we're losing that favorable time of the year. But talking about today's weather, there is a risk of severe weather in Tennessee and Kentucky. So please be aware there is I believe there's a little bit of a tornado risk today. Yeah, so there's a 2% risk of a tornado. There will be plenty of flow through this area. So if you live in Nashville, up to Bowling Green, surrounding areas, just be mindful of a tornado risk today, some gusty winds, maybe some hail with this. And if we look at the southeast with this, certainly some of these storms right here could produce something. Even into overnight, I would watch out. Like, this is the wee hours of the morning. We got some thunderstorms firing through this area. So just be aware of some thunderstorms over the next 24 hours in southern Kentucky and Tennessee. But I'm not going to break down the Northeast just because we already broke it down. But the south central U.S. could get some rain showers across Arkansas, maybe even areas of Texas, Louisiana today. But I wouldn't expect a big deal from this. Pretty quiet weather. And then the western U.S. will just continue to have rounds of moisture flying through. The snow levels have went back up, so not expecting really any snow in those lower elevated regions for the most part. But continue just to get rounds of moisture all the way into pretty much this weekend. Temperatures locked in. Cold temperatures in the Northeast, upper Midwest, pretty cold. Very weird temperature gradient today. Very, very weird. It's pretty wild here what's going on in northern Texas, Oklahoma. Yeah, just you might just want to walk outside, see what your temperatures are today for sure. And this is the western U.S. You can tell some wild color contrast here. Just yeah. So high plains, nice and warm. Then all of a sudden you be driving north, and your temperature reading on your car might drop into the 20s within like 20 miles. So. Definitely be aware of that. That's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for the prayers, the sickness with our family. Hopefully we're done with it for the foreseeable future. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.